When many readers first meet The Hobbit, it can look like a straightforward adventure, a comfortable beginning, a long road, and a dragon at the far end of the map. But Tolkien is doing more than telling a quest story for young readers. He's testing a set of ideas. What comfort gives us, what danger reveals in us, and how easily a good cause can rot if it becomes a possession. This video focuses on the themes of The Hobbit, not what happens, but what Tolkien seems to be saying through what happens. Home versus adventure. The most obvious tension is the pull between home and adventure. Bag End isn't just a setting. It's a worldview, safety, routine, predictability. Meals are regular. The furniture stays where you left it. Life is legible. Adventure is the opposite. It's hunger, exhaustion, uncertainty, and the constant awareness that your choices now have consequences. Here's the important tightening. Tolkien doesn't treat home as a flaw. Some readings make comfort sound like cowardice, but the book doesn't insist on that. Instead, it suggests that comfort becomes limiting only when it turns into avoidance. The question isn't, is home bad? It's, what does a person become if they never leave it? By the end, Bilbo still values home, arguably more than ever. But he returns with new perspective. The comfort is real, and so is the cost of never testing yourself. Courage that looks small. Up close. Bilbo is not a heroic type in the traditional sense. He is not trained. He is not physically imposing. He is not hungry for glory. So the book has to do something clever. It redefines courage. In The Hobbit, bravery isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to act while fear is still in the room, tapping its foot. A credible counter-reading is that Bilbo's main strength is not courage, but adaptability. Quick thinking, timing, and social intelligence. That's fair. He often survives by reading a situation well rather than charging into it. But that doesn't weaken the theme. It refines it. Tolkien's point isn't heroism equals violence. It's that courage can be quiet, practical, and sometimes a little unwilling. Bilbo's bravery grows in increments. One choice, then another, then another. No speeches, no destiny monologues. Just a small person realizing he has more nerve than he assumed. Growth and moral maturity. Bilbo's journey isn't just about competence, it's about judgment. He becomes more confident, yes, but more importantly, he becomes more discerning. He starts to weigh consequences instead of simply obeying louder voices. A stronger, more defensible way to say this is, Bilbo develops moral independence. He learns that being loyal and being right aren't always the same thing. He learns that a good end doesn't automatically excuse any means. And he learns, at key moments, that the wisest action is restraint. There's also a counter-interpretation worth respecting. The Hobbit is a children's fairy story, and some of its moral clarity is intentionally simplified. True, it's not a philosophical treatise, but fairy stories, for Tolkien, are not simple. They are concentrated. They carry meaning in a distilled form: recovery, escape, consolation, and crucially, a moral shape you can feel even when it isn't lectured at you. Bilbo's growth is not about becoming harder, it's about becoming steadier. Greed and the dragon sickness problem. If The Hobbit has a dark engine, it's greed. Tolkien doesn't frame treasure as harmless reward. He frames it as a test, and sometimes as an infection. That's why dragon sickness matters. Whether you read it as a literal curse or a vivid metaphor, the effect is the same. Proximity to hoarded wealth can distort judgment, shrink empathy, and turn allies into threats. Here's the tightening. It's not money is evil. Its possession can possess the possessor. A useful counter-reading is that some characters' greed is also understandable. There's pride, dispossession, history, and the desire for restoration. Wanting your home back is not the same as wanting to sit on a pile of gold like a smug lizard. Exactly. And that's part of Tolkien's point. The moral danger often begins in something defensible. A rightful claim can still become an obsession. A noble purpose can still harden into mine. Greed narrows the world until the only thing left in it is the object you refuse to release. Luck, providence, and choice. At first glance, the Hobbit looks very lucky. Right place, right moment, narrow escape, the kind of coincidences that make you suspect the universe is leaning on the scale. Some readers treat that as mere storytelling convenience. A children's book needs momentum. That's a reasonable objection. But Tolkien repeatedly uses luck in a way that feels pointed. The pattern suggests more than randomness. Luck opens doors, but characters still decide what to do once the door is open. That's where the theme becomes academically sturdy. Chance creates opportunity. Choice creates meaning. The clearest example is mercy. Bilbo's decision not to kill when he could, and perhaps should, in a purely tactical sense, becomes morally significant. Tolkien's wider writing makes it very clear he considers mercy, and the unforeseen consequences of mercy, central to how his world works. So in The Hobbit, luck is not a substitute for character. It's a pressure test. When the moment arrives, what kind of person are you? Power and restraint. Compared to The Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit is less overtly about domination, but it is still cautious about power. Characters who pursue control too aggressively tend to lose perspective. The world becomes a set of pieces to move, rather than people to consider. Bilbo stands out because he repeatedly refuses to play that game. He doesn't need to win every argument. He doesn't need to be the loudest person in the room. And he doesn't treat power as proof of worth. A counter-reading is that Bilbo's restraint is partly pragmatic. He's not built for direct confrontation. Also fair. But again, that doesn't weaken the theme. It strengthens it. Restraint is not always noble theatre. Sometimes it's the hard discipline of not escalating. In a story full of larger forces, kings, armies, dragons, Tolkien gives moral clarity to the smallest figure, the one who can still step back. What Tolkien seems to be saying. At its core, The Hobbit is about balance. Home matters. So does leaving it. Courage matters. So does judgment. Strength matters. So does mercy. Wealth has value, but never more than people. And the final shape of Bilbo's arc is not conquest. It's perspective. He comes back not as a hero in shining armor, but as someone who understands the world and himself more clearly than he did before. In other words, he returns with a wider soul and a slightly stranger reputation, which, honestly, is the best outcome most of us can hope for. Conclusion and call to action. Although The Hobbit often feels light and playful, its themes are quietly serious. How ordinary people grow, how greed corrupts, how power distorts, and how mercy can matter more than victory. In the next video, we'll connect The Hobbit to Tolkien's wider ideas and look at how it sets up the moral landscape that becomes central in The Lord of the Rings. If this breakdown helped, subscribe for more calm, clear literary analysis, and I'll see you in the next one.